Hi everyone, so we're back on a fresh new repo today and we're going to be learning about booleans and if statements. So booleans are another data type like the ones we learned last week. They can only be true or false, and they must be capitalized, by the way, otherwise the Python interpreter won't recognize them as booleans. One way you can use them is in if statements, which are pretty self-explanatory. If this condition is true, then do this. Else, if this other condition is true, then do this. Else, if neither one of them are true, do this. Note that you do need to have an if statement if you're having an elif or else, but you can just have an if statement by itself without the elif or else. And indentation does matter because that's how the Python compiler can tell what's inside the if statement and what's outside. So if you run this, it prints out that x is true. If we turn the x false, it would say that neither x nor y is true. Now let's just comment that out. And putting 3 quote marks around a block of text is the best way to get the Python compiler to ignore a block of code. It's not technically commenting out, but it works pretty much the same way. All right, now what we can do in Python are also numerical comparisons. So let's create another variable called num and give it a value maybe 3. So we can compare num to other numbers. Double equal signs check if they are equal. An exclamation mark and then an equal sign checks if it's not equal. And the rest of the comparisons are pretty much the same that you would see in math. So when we run this, yeah, it matches up pretty well. Additionally, we have different Boolean operators. So I'm just going to comment all of this out. I'm commenting the earlier code out to make sure that the output is more clean. And let's create some new variables. All right, so the Boolean operators we're going to be talking about today are called and, or, is, in, and not. And or take in 2 different booleans and evaluate them like this. In checks to see if a variable is inside a sequence. Not basically flips the boolean so that this would evaluate to be true, and so that this would be printed. The is operator basically checks if 2 variables are pointing at the same object. So remember how in the last video I said that variables are like containers? That was a bit of an oversimplification. Instead, what happens in the computer is that the variable points at the memory location of the object that you've created, such as a string, and then it stores it. So you can think of variables as more of a label being put on the object so the computer knows where it is. So I'm going to create a string that has multiple variables that point towards it like this. Then when I check to see if string 1 and string 2 are pointing towards the same object, they are. And when we run this, you can see that all of the if statements all the conditions inside the if statement evaluated to true, so everything was printed out. Now, let's say that you want to put something into the condition of an if statement that's not a Boolean or a comparison. So what we can use is the bool function, which evaluates any argument and tells you if it's true or false. So basically anything that has content will be true. So strings are true, any number except 0 is true. Lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries, which we haven't gotten to yet, are all true as long as they have items inside them. And empty values, such as empty strings, brackets, the number 0, or the value none, will all be false. Also, the \n basically creates a new line. It tells the console to print it in a new line. And when we print this, and now we can connect this back to what we did last week by incorporating some user input into an if statement. So let's create two variables that will hold user input called name and status. And clean up the input a bit with the string modifiers that you guys can look up on your own. If status what is your name? Elaine. And have I done coding before? Well, yes. And there it is. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.